Okay, welcome to the deep dive, everybody. Today, we're diving in some pretty wild stuff.
Yeah, we are.
Really unexpected territory. We're going to be talking about the potential connection between your cravings and habits.
Okay.
And even your thoughts.
All right.
And the influence of things that might be living inside you.
Oh, wow.
Like, literally. And also, something a bit darker, as this YouTube channel Beyond the Veil calls it.
Okay, now this is interesting territory and definitely something that raises a lot of questions.
Yeah.
So for you out there, you love to learn new things fast, but you also want to make sure you're getting the full picture.
Right.
And this is going to deliver some really surprising insights. So we'll be breaking down the ideas in the video, looking at what they're claiming, and trying to understand it all in a way that's clear and hopefully keeps you on the edge of your seat.
Exactly. So our mission for this deep dive is to, this video from Beyond the Veil got us thinking.
Right.
And we're going to investigate this whole concept that parasites might be messing with more than just our physical health.
Interesting.
They might actually be pulling the strings, making us crave certain things.
Whoa.
Influencing how we feel, what we want to do.
Okay.
And maybe even acting as a pathway for negative influence. And of course, we're going to cover what the video suggests you can do about it if any of this resonates with you.
Sounds like a plan. So are we ready to jump right in?
Let's do it.
Okay, so right out of the gate, this video drops a pretty big statement. It suggests that a lot of illnesses, they might not just come from like physical stuff, like what you eat, where you live, all that stress, but there could be something else going on, something hidden, something maybe even a little sinister.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty heavy stuff.
It is. It really challenges how we usually think about diseases, that they're just kind of random.
Like bad luck, basically.
Right, exactly.
So let's break that down a little bit. The video doesn't waste any time, just straight up asks you, when you get that super strong urge for a sugary treat, or you're battling a habit you know isn't good for you, are those urges, those desires, are they really coming from you? It brings up the idea that there might be some other forces at work here.
That's where they start talking about parasites, and they're saying these aren't just little things hanging out in your body, just kind of being there.
Right.
They're saying they're actually feeding off you. And get this, they might be manipulating what you crave, how you feel, even your thought, like puppeteers, they said.
Whoa, hold on. That sounds a little out there.
It does, right.
Yeah.
But then they hit you with this. They say almost 97% of people might have parasites.
97%.
Really? That's what they're claiming. And they're saying this could be happening even in places like the US, Canada, Europe, places where people think, oh, we have good hygiene, we're healthy.
Right. We're not talking about some remote jungle here.
Exactly. That's a huge number, if it's true.
It is. So, okay. Let's back up a second. What are parasites exactly? How do they work?
So basically, a parasite is a creature that lives inside another organism called the host, and it feeds off of the host, taking the nutrients it needs.
Okay.
And while it's living there, it releases waste products, which can be toxic for the host. And of course, it reproduces, making more parasites.
So it's not just a roommate. It's like a bad roommate who's eating all your food and trashing the place.
That's one way to put it, yeah. And the video is saying that these parasites are not just doing their thing quietly in the background. They could be making you crave certain foods, making it hard to break bad habits. It's not just about willpower, they say.
So wait, instead of me wanting that donut, it's the parasite inside me that wants the donut.
That's the idea they're presenting.
Okay, so that's the parasite part. But then the video goes in a really different direction and starts talking about demons. And I gotta say, that's not something I expected to be discussing today.
It's an interesting turn, for sure. So they're talking about these demons as beings that, they feed off negative energy, negative emotions, and behaviors.
Okay.
They're referencing historical texts and different religious beliefs that talk about these kinds of influences on our thoughts, desires, even our dreams.
So they're drawing a parallel between these two things, parasites and demons, saying that just like those parasites are supposedly taking over our bodies for their own benefit, these demons are trying to take over our minds and emotion, feeding off our fear, our addictions, our negativity.
Exactly. They point out how both parasites and demons are described in similar ways. They hijack their host, they manipulate what the host wants and does, and they get something from it, whether it's physical nutrients or some kind of energy.
That's kind of a creepy thought.
It is, right. And they're saying, while the parasites might be doing this on a physical level, like releasing chemicals that mess with our nervous systems, like these darker forces, they're working on a different level, taking advantage of our emotional and spiritual.
And then they asked this question that really made me think. Could these physical parasites be some kind of bridge, a physical way for these unseen, darker things to influence us.
Yeah.
They mentioned things like archons, jinn, demons.
Yeah, it's a pretty unsettling concept, to say the least.
It is.
But then the video shifts gears again and starts talking about the world we live in today. All the processed foods, fast food.
And all that stuff.
And all the toxins, pesticides, microplastics, heavy metals, all that's just everywhere. And they ask, is it just a coincidence that these things, the junk food and the toxins, are exactly what parasites love?
Like, we're creating the perfect environment for them to thrive.
Exactly. So they're saying maybe our modern way of life isn't just making us sick in the ways we typically think about it.
It's like we're setting the table for these parasites,
Yeah.
and maybe even making ourselves vulnerable to those other darker influences.
That's what they're suggesting. And then they bring up this guy named Wayne Roland. Seems he got pretty frustrated with conventional medicine, felt like it wasn't really getting to the root of what makes people sick.
Right. Treating the symptoms, not the cause.
Exactly. And apparently he was so sure there was more to it that he put up a $10,000 reward for anyone who could prove that important medical knowledge was being hidden or suppressed.
$10,000. He was serious about this.
Totally serious. And the video says someone actually came forward claiming to have 5, not 1, but 5 suppressed medical technologies.
Wow, okay. So what were they?
Well, Wayne asked for the most effective one, and this person pointed him towards something called RIF technology.
RIF technology, what's that?
So from what they say in the video, it uses specific frequencies to target and get rid of whatever's causing the illness.
Like some kind of sound wave therapy?
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not really mainstream medicine, but Wayne was willing to try it. He did a 3-month trial. Well, the video says the results were pretty amazing. Not only did his original illness clear up, but his arthritis, which he'd had for years, went away too.
Seriously. All gone.
That's what they're saying. Wayne was, of course, blown away. But here's the twist. The frequencies, they weren't actually targeting the illness itself or the arthritis. They were getting rid of worms and parasites in his system.
Whoa, hold on. So you're saying the parasites were causing all his problems?
That's what the video claims. Apparently, he had lead poisoning, which created the perfect environment for the parasites to thrive, and they were the real root of his health issues.
So this was like a major wake-up call for Wayne. Like, maybe parasites are a bigger deal than most people think.
Yeah, it was a turning point for him. He started digging into old medical practices, and according to the video, he found that back in the 1800s, deworming was just a normal part of healthcare. Like, everyone did it.
Really? I've never heard of that.
It's pretty different from how we do things now, right? And they even talk about this Dr. Chase from Chicago, who apparently cured 80% of his cancer patients just by deworming them.
80%? That's incredible. If it's true.
It's a bold claim, for sure. The video is basically saying that old medical texts actually linked parasites and toxins to all kinds of diseases that we consider incurable today, like cancer, diabetes, neurological problems, all sorts of things.
Like, these parasites were seen as a major health threat back then.
Exactly. And they give this specific example from their research. They found that pancreatic flukes combined with exposure to wood alcohol was thought to be a possible cause of diabetes.
Huh. That's interesting. Because these days, doctors focus on things like genetics and diet and lifestyle when it comes to diabetes.
Right. But this historical perspective is making the case that maybe we're missing something. Maybe there are other factors at play.
So what happened with Wayne? Did he keep going down this parasite rabbit hole?
He did. The video says he started experimenting on himself with different deworming methods and sharing what he learned with others. And people were reporting some pretty wild results.
Like what?
Well, they were saying they were getting rid of these really long parasites, seeing them come out of their bodies. Yeah, not pretty. But they were also saying that chronic illnesses they'd been struggling with were getting better, sometimes even disappearing completely.
So this video has laid out this whole idea of parasites maybe being connected to something darker and how it all could be affecting our health and well-being.
Right.
But what can we actually do about it?
Well, the first thing they emphasize is just being aware of this possibility, acknowledging that these influences might exist, both the physical parasites and maybe something beyond that.
Okay, so step 1, open your mind to the possibility that there might be more going on than you realize.
Right. And they're saying that as a society, we've kind of dismissed parasites and toxins as not that big of a deal, even though there's evidence that they can have a lot of control over us.
So we need to take back control, reclaim our bodies before they become someone else's home, so to speak.
Exactly. And to do that, the video talks about 3 main steps: cleansing, detoxifying, and fortifying.
Okay, let's break those down. What do they mean by cleanse?
Well, first off, they talk about diet. They say that all that junk food and sugary drinks, it's basically giving these organisms everything they need to thrive.
Like we're feeding the enemy.
Exact. So they recommend cutting out sugar, processed carbs, alcohol, all the things parasites love, and replacing them with whole food like fruits, vegetables, good protein sources, healthy fats.
Basically giving your body the nutrients it needs to fight back.
Right. And then they talk about parasite cleanses. They mention using things like wormwood, black walnut hull, cloves, all natural remedies that have been used for centuries to disrupt the life cycle of parasites.
So are these like special teas or something?
You can find them in different forms, capsules, tinctures, teas. The idea is to create an environment that's hostile to those unwelcome guests.
Got it. And they even mention that you might feel some emotional or even spiritual effects as those parasites die off.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. It suggests that the impact of these things goes beyond the physical.
Okay, so after cleansing, what's next?
Detoxifying.
Yeah.
They suggest using supplements like activated charcoal or bentonite clay, which can bind toxins and help remove them from your body.
Like a little internal vacuum cleaner.
Kinda, yeah. And they really emphasize the importance of drinking lots of water to flush all that stuff out.
Okay, so we've cleansed, we've detoxified. What about fortifying?
So that's all about making your body less welcoming to parasites in the first place, building up your defenses.
Makes sense. How do we do that?
They talk about taking probiotics to support your gut health, getting regular exercise, enough sleep, and managing stress. All those things strengthen your immune system.
So basically, taking care of yourself, living a healthy lifestyle.
Exact. And they present this as a way to declare independence from these infections, to take back control of your life.
It's like a whole body, mind, and spirit reset.
Exactly. And to understand how these parasites might be manipulating us, the video talks about how they can release chemicals into our bloodstream. And these chemicals can mess with our nervous systems and influence our cravings, making us want the very foods that they thrive on: sugar, processed carbs, alcohol.
So that urge to eat a whole bag of chips might not be you. It might be the parasites calling the shots.
That's the idea. And they also mention research that links certain parasites to changes in mood and behavior.
So they could be affecting how we feel too.
That's what they're suggesting. Like, you might feel more anxious, depressed, even aggressive because of these parasites.
Which brings us back to that whole demon. They're also described as manipulating our thoughts and feelings to keep us trapped in negative patterns.
Right. And the video suggests that the physical changes caused by parasites, like changes in brain chemistry, might actually open the door for those darker influences to have more power over us.
Like a 1-2 punch. So it's like a vicious cycle. You crave junk food, you indulge in bad habits, you feel bad, and it just keeps going. And the video is saying it might not be all your fault.
That's what they're implying. And they even suggest that our dreams, even our deepest thoughts, might be influenced by these things.
They mentioned ancient beliefs about negative entities getting into people's dreams.
Right. And the video doesn't shy away from the potential societal implications. Like, what if industries are profiting from these manipulated cravings? What if a population that can't control its desires is easier to control in other ways?
It's a pretty scary thought.
Okay.
But the video keeps coming back to the idea of taking back control. The first step is just recognizing that these influences might exist in our lives.
Right. They emphasize that we're stronger than these forces, and they encourage starting with small steps to cleanse our bodies and build healthier habits.
All steps lead to big changes, right?
Exactly. And they remind us that parasites often work together with toxins in our environment. Heavy metals, pesticides, all that stuff. It's like they create this perfect storm for illness.
Like that example they gave of the pancreatic fluke and wood alcohol potentially causing diabetes.
Right. And then there's that historical example of Dr. Chase using deworming to treat cancer. It makes you wonder why we don't hear more about these approaches today.
Yeah, why aren't we deworming everyone?
It's a good question. The video paints this picture of our modern environment as being practically designed for parasites to thrive. Toxins in our food, water, air, it's everywhere.
And they even linked parasites to other conditions like Alzheimer's and breast tumor.
They talked about how aluminum might attract certain parasites to the brain and how parasites might clog up the lymphatic system, potentially leading to breast tumor. And they mentioned candida overgrowth as another problem that can be fueled by parasites.
Candida overgrowth, that's like a yeast infection, right?
Yeah, basically. And they suggested using Lugol's iodine as a potential remedy for that.
So the video is basically saying that parasites and toxins are at the root of almost every major disease, and they're affecting pretty much everyone.
That's the claim they're making. And they're not just talking about physical health. They say that these things can drain our energy and keep us stuck in cycles of craving and addiction.
Which brings up another interesting question. Why isn't this information more widely known? Why is it buried, as the video puts it?
It's a question worth considering, but ultimately they want to empower listeners to take action, to reclaim their health, their energy, their their lives.
To stop being victims.
Exactly. So to sum up, this Beyond the Veil video is suggesting that there's a link between parasites, potentially darker forces, and the way we think, feel, and behave. They talk about the historical practice of deworming, and they urge us to cleanse and fortify our bodies, minds, and spirit.
It all comes back to that question. Who's really in control of your life?
It's definitely something to think about. Take some time to digest all this information, maybe do some more research on your own.
And if something resonates with you, maybe consider making some changes in your own life.
That's the beauty of it. You have the power to choose.
You have the power to take back control. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.